more importantly to know. But again, they're going to be following us as well as far as what we're doing. So if there's anything that we need from them, they can always be willing to kind of galvanize together to support our efforts. So at least we know that they're out there, but there's nothing that we would be doing to kind of step on their toes, so to speak. And I think if we get into the school area, they may be a good a team to kind of partner with and say, hey, we're looking at this area in the schools. Are you willing to help? And they're willing to step outside of that book thing, but just knowing that they have our support in any way we deem necessary for them to help out. So they're more of a support team, I would say, than they are an organized, continuous group.
No, that's great. It's good. I know that a number of people have said this. It's good to see that the younger people in town are getting really involved and actually getting out and doing some things as it relates to the whole diversity piece and try to increase awareness in the town. So that's a good thing. Do you know, Sharice, if they have any plans to do anything? I know the reading groups that they work with was over the summer. Do they have any plans for the fall or winter? Are they looking out there, or was that even part of what they were thinking?
That was just part of the summer curriculum for the library. They're partnered with their reading groups and just bringing in new books and things like that. And I don't think they've really thought beyond that, other than just getting something started and just trying to do something instead of nothing. And so again, I think as we develop ourselves and figure out what direction we're going in, if there's a school portion of that, they may be someone we want to reach out to and say, hey, this is what we're doing, thinking about if we need more hands or people involved, then we know we have this support from the class of 2010. And I have a direct connection with the chairperson of the committee. So that's a good thing if we need more power, people. Is what I'm trying to say.
All right, great.
Yeah. So if you get a chance, though, I sent everyone the books because I think the books are really well done and the slideshow that they present, so you can get an idea of what they did do. It's a real nice piece, I thought, that they put together.
Mm-hmm. All right, great. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Let's see. Next item on the agenda, I don't think it was last meeting, I think it was 2 meetings ago, and I'm sorry because I don't remember exactly who suggested it, but I know there was some conversation around making sure that everyone on the team had an opportunity to view the listening session from June 30th. And I know that we were going to kind of touch base with folks. Did anyone have an opportunity to take a look at that?
Yes.
Brian and Sharice, anyone else
Latasha.
Okay. Oh, that's right. And I'm sorry, Latasha. I don't see you, so
it's okay.
Didn't know your hand was raised. Okay. Yeah.
I actually participated in it, Bill.
Right. Yes, you did.
Yeah, I think Brian did too.
And so did I.
Right, yeah, Brian had a letter that was read, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Yes, so I had an opportunity to do that as well. And I didn't know if people had any specific thoughts. I mean, like, it felt, well, I didn't know if people had specific thoughts they wanted to share as a result of looking at that.
I'd like to say that I know Sharice, because I had Lexi in school. Sharice, that was the first time I heard that story from you about the cups in the high school. In the solo cups, there was like some, harassment there. And I was shocked that like we didn't do some diversity training right after that at the high school level. It sort of got.
I don't think Chelmsford was ready for that at that time.
You think so?
I think they were taken aback themselves because literally my husband and I worked like we had a job because what we wanted them to know was that we would not be defeated. You can do your rearrangements, but it was exhausting. I could not wait for that race to be over. So for those of you who aren't aware, my daughter was running for class president, and she, they range cups and different things on the fence, to say Lexi for class president. So what we found out, someone called from the office, which I was really grateful for, like 6:30 in the morning, and said, we tried to take some of the cups down. We wanted you to know, you and your husband to know what had happened, and I just wanted to make you aware. So when the buses come in, we didn't want people to see that language. And so my husband and I immediately got up, went to the fence and rearranged it back to the way it read, because I know our kids worked hard to get it up there. So when the bus pulled in around 7, there was no difference of what they had put together. So my daughter never knew until this was all said and done that every morning my husband and I would take shifts. And I would go like at 2 in the morning, and he would go just before school so that we'd have enough time. And it was exhausting. It was in the winter. It was cold, but we were just real adamant that we weren't going to allow the people to have those kind of derogatory remarks. And they would go back, and what was interesting, they were rearranging them as well. So we got the police involved, and then we said, we need help because we can't keep doing this. But we managed to get through it, and it all worked out. She didn't win for class president, and it worked out for the best because she became president of the National Honor Society, which served her so much better. But it was exhausting, and I don't think Chelmsford was ready. I think they were taken aback by this, and it was just some kids acting, just being high schoolers.
But kids, we can't see them. I find fault with kids being high schoolers. No.
Yeah, but that's why we're here, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. And it's sad that it took the death, I believe, what triggered it, because this COVID, I think we're just so being busy, that we're not paying attention to the things that are happening around us. COVID has taken us to a place where we have to pay attention now. And this, George Floyd isn't the first. He's a list of many. And so, but it galvanized everybody to say, wait a minute, this is what's happening, and it woke people up. And I'm very proud of those same kids who can act, irresponsible. These same kids took the baton and just started, rallies and protests and organizing, and it was amazing.
Are you sure that they were students that were moving those cups around?
I mean, I don't know, but I mean, it could have been somebody else in the neighborhood. I don't know, but
yeah, because that's one of the things that concerns me, is that when we talk about this committee, there's a rampant group. There's a group on Facebook, News 2.0, and they are terrible. Matter. There's a lot of overt racism on that page, and these are adults, and I'm seeing the kids from high school now chiming in and trying to educate and combat this. So I hesitate to just say, oh, these are just high school kids playing pranks. It's bigger than just the schools. It's the town, and the way that the adults think.
Yeah, that very well could be. I mean, the only thing is I didn't know that they knew my daughter to that extent to do that. It just seems so childish but I know adults do that. But nevertheless, it's behind us. And so I'm just glad we are where we are right now, doing what we're doing. Yeah. And that it really started with,
But Sherry, that story is so important because of those people in those news groups that sit there and say there's no racism in Chelmsford. That was a really strong example. And I, as a teacher, was never told that, because right away I would have been teaching it, talking to it, addressing it, not to embarrass Lexi, certainly, but it was a teachable moment that was lost in a way. And for the admin not even tell the faculty that this happened, they might have said, don't name names, but let's add this inclusion in these speeches in your teaching. I guess I'm more upset that it wasn't done for me to help anyway, for the rest of them to help. I was a little upset.
And I can say when you're in it, you don't think about those things because it was probably even a teachable moment for my husband and me,
Sure.
you know, but when you're in it and you're out there in the snow 2 and 3 in the morning, my husband can attest, it was exhausting.
I would have been out there with you had I known. I would have been out there in the snow at 3 in the morning, you know, and I think several teachers would have been out there with you helping had we known.
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
is
when you know
Latasha,
better,
and I want to just piggyback on what you guys are speaking of. Oftentimes, we don't know these events have occurred, and that's one of my suggestions for our goal for 2020 to 2021 is to create a hotline or an email message board where people can actually share the discriminatory act that occurred to them. It's not necessarily to get the police involved, but it's so that we know what are the issues in our town so that we can address them, so that we can educate the appropriate groups.
Excellent.
I like that.
Me too. Me too.
Where were you, Latasha, with that idea when I was dealing with that now?
So I just have a couple comments on that particular idea real quick. And by the way, I'm sorry I'm late. I apparently joined the wrong meeting for a couple minutes. Anyway, setting up a hotline has two issues that we are going to need to keep in mind when we implement it. Number one is that we need to make sure that all the things that are reported and that we take action on actually happened, because there is the possibility for abuse in that manner. And there's a possibility for abuse that people are just going to call it up and prank call it and harass it and do whatever when they see that, you know, when we make the point, this is for reporting racial, injustice things, people are going to frankly give it a lot of bullshit, and they are going to spam it in order to defeat it, because that's what hateful people do.
Well, so you have to have it set up in certain ways and have to take names and take numbers that will be anonymous. You're going to say it will be anonymous, but for our purposes, we do need who you are and it will not go any further. Do you know what I mean? It's like, there must be a way to set it up so that it's anonymous yet legitimate, so it can get rid of those claims. Because I agree with you.
Right. I mean, as long as we don't have people filling in their names and saying that, this was reported by Ivana Hug and Kiss.
Oh, true. Yeah, yeah.
But I think even, Brian, like even if we have people calling and they're spamming and they're harassing, like that is also exactly why we have the hotline set up. So like that actually would be a good example to bring back and be like, here it is, community. The other thing I wanted to just say, working in a high school, not Chelmsford, like the high school kids are such a good resource that I think we can utilize. They are the ones that are really aware of what's going on. They're very, they know what their peers are up to. Like everything is on Snapchat these days. I don't know if Snapchat was around whenever what was happening with Lexi, but I'm sure there were kids that would have known who it was. The high school that I work for held listening sessions over the summer with student leaders, and the school board made a subcommittee doing exactly what we're doing, but made up of students and alumni. So I was just thinking that, high schoolers being high schoolers, but they really are such a good resource that I think we should include in what we're doing.
Good idea.
I think so. That's a good idea. And we have the class of 2010. We have even though they're not high schoolers, I think they would be, whenever we have some of these sessions, they may be a good group to start with too. And I don't think back then they had Snapchat, just FYI. I mean, Facebook was just coming into the fold. It was MySpace. Thank God none of that stuff was around. And maybe it could have been helpful, but it could have exacerbated the situation as well. And I think that's the thing, when you're in these schools, you don't want things to get out. And that's probably why you didn't hear about it, Ms. Cochran, because they want to keep everything hush-hush. We don't want to make anything big out of this,
But to me, set the example of how you stomp it out. So I'm a little bit ashamed of the administration.
Yeah.
And I think it's been a long history, Brian. I don't know how you feel about it, but I know when I was in high school, the same types of things occurred. There doesn't seem to have been much growth given this story.
Well, that's why we're here.
That's why you're here, right?
There's actually an Instagram account similar to Latasha's recommendation called Westward Coalition for Change, where people anonymously can give examples of things that were either uncomfortable or is pure racist incidents, etc. And it's similar to what Brian was recommending, anonymous if they want to. So that could be a good template to work off of if we need ideas.
That listening session, I invited as many persons of color students that I knew, and so several attended the listening session. And it was so good to hear from the kids. So I do think that could be a recommendation to the school system, having listening sessions with current students. That's a very simple goal. And that way it will get, it'll get into the system. Because even so much as like, Tay, one of my kids was saying how kids, talk to me like I'm from the hood or something, and I'm not. There's just there's certain things that kids don't even get, when he first moved here, et cetera. So I would propose that we do ask the school system to have listening sessions or create some kind of a way to hear their voices as well. And I think someone else has said that, so.
I think it would be a good place to start, maybe having it without the school administration, because a lot of students are afraid to speak out. I don't know what the culture at Chelmsford High School is right now, but I know a lot of students don't want to sort of shine that spotlight on themselves. So maybe just having a listening session with us, or I would be willing to facilitate something like that since I work in a high school, to sort of get an idea of how they're feeling about the administration before we bring them into it.
I like that. That's
Good point. Yeah, because actually one of my alumni, who's now 28, said, I could never have talked about it in high school. I was just trying to fit in and not be noticed.
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
This is Latasha. Another thing that I heard during the listening session was that the police chief is very open and willing to work with the community. And he says that his doors are open. So I thought it might be a good idea in 2020, 2021 for us to have a fireside chat with the police chief of Chelmsford.
Yeah, I wrote that down as one of my goals too. You asked us to list down 3 goals, and that was, you're on the same page with me, Latasha, because I said to have community events with the Chelmsford Police Department, town hall. You said fireside chat. I like that, and just even once we post COVID or vaccine, town hall. Format where we can meet and greet at local businesses, and support our local businesses, have something like at the Java Room and also at the CCA where we can have meet and greets, because I think that's going to be really important. And I like the fireside chat. So that's one of the goals I had down as well.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And I think we're, if we don't have any more comments regarding the listening session, it sounds like we're getting a lot of ideas for the goals are starting to pop up. And what I'd like to do is just to kind of set the stage for looking at the goals. I think probably our first order of business, if you will, and we've already started, is to just do basic brainstorming. Is to get everybody to get all of their goals out, any ideas that you have, anything that you think our committee would be the right one to do, whether and just focus, for the time that we have left, kind of focus in on identifying what those things are and somehow getting a list of it. I'd like to ask for a couple of volunteers who would be willing to jot down the ideas as people come up with them, so that we could, at the end of the meeting, kind of try to create a list of everything that people come up with. There's already been several ideas that have come up so far in our previous conversation. So we want to make sure that we capture all of those. So do I have any volunteers who want to try to jot down some of the ideas that come up?
I will. I'm just looking for a pen and paper.
Oh,
yeah. So I can do it because I have to bug out and come back in, so I don't want to miss something because I have that open house for the high school. But
yeah, you let us know. Sure. Okay.
Next time I will.
So Carly, if you can try to grab some, and I think I'll try to grab some. And Joe, he has the dubious pleasure of being the clerk for today's meeting. If we can just try to capture, all the things that, that come up. And then, once we get them all and can share them all, then we can start to talk about, kind of like next steps, like, categorizing, prioritizing, all that sort of stuff. But, I think it makes sense to just start brainstorming and grabbing them.
Can I suggest, would it make sense to maybe go in like a round robin to ensure that everyone has time for speaking?
Absolutely. Makes sense to me.
Okay. So where do you want to get started?
Well, actually, Sharice, can we start with you and we can just jot down those ideas, the things that you had just come up with?
Yeah, well, I mentioned the one about the going along with what Latasha said. The other one I had was I would like to see, one of the things I would like to see is, Black or African American and Indian teachers at the elementary and high school levels. I didn't put middle school because I figured if we can start somewhere, I think those are the two bookends that are important for kids to see as they're young, growing up. The last one, because we had three, I mentioned the community events with the Chelmsford Police Department. And I think we should use that beautiful Chelmsford Center for the Arts for cultural events so that much like a Epcot, and everybody can come together. People from various backgrounds can have exhibit tables. We can actually charge for those exhibit tables, like saying if you want to exhibit a part of who you are, your culture, whether you're from Ireland, just, different, because I think it's inclusive, right? So, and we can have different things that represent our country or where we're from, or just have that as a table. And that money that we use could be used for seed money. And we have people just an event and have it at this Chelmsford Center for the Arts, like a cultural event, and have it hosted. And like even especially around February, Black History Month, different months that we have, we can just exploit those, explore those opportunities to have a event maybe quarterly or maybe once or twice within a year. Those are my thoughts.
All right, great.
Okay.
So I'm going across my screen as I see folks. Brian?
I'll go last. I'm the white guy here. I can go last.
I don't know, Brian. I think you want me to go last. My list is long.
Okay, then I'll try to make mine quick then. So my three ideas that I got jotted down after going through the listening session was number one, recommended books for schools, either for curricula or for extra credit reading. Number two, one of the things that was mentioned was that there is no sort of town-sponsored presence for important occasions for people of color, like Juneteenth, like Indigenous Peoples Day, like Black History Month. Like, if there could be something in the town budget where we could say, here, you are the town, you put up signage for Black History Month around the center, instead of having military people be the ones on honor, have people of color have just, that kind of thing. So town sponsoring, I think, is one thing that they were really looking at. And number three, I signed up a couple of years ago for Standing Up for Racial Justice. I don't know who has heard of this, but it's a nationwide organization, and it's basically white people trying to do anti-racism work. And I signed up for the chapter in Boston, and I couldn't go to any of their events because they were all in Boston and, late at night when my kids were supposed to be, when I was putting my kids to bed and all that. So I was wondering if we could maybe do a kind of branch or thing here in Chelmsford, or maybe a Lowell chapter or something along those lines, so that we could just get, the people of this community to, understand that, yes, these things need to be changed. Because I just want to quote this real quick. I'm actually reading The Warmth of Other Suns right now, which is amazing, by the way. And I hit this this passage near the end of it. This is about when Martin Luther King was trying to do civil rights work in Chicago. King was running headlong into what the sociologist Gunnar Myrdal called the Northern Paradox. In the North, Myrdal wrote, almost everybody is against discrimination in general, but at the same time, everybody practices discrimination in his own personal affairs. That is, by not allowing blacks into unions or clubhouses, certain jobs, and white neighborhoods, indeed, avoiding social interaction overall. It is the culmination of all these personal discriminations, he continued, which creates the color bar in the North and, for the Negro, causes unusually severe unemployment, crowded housing conditions, crime, and vice. About this social process, the ordinary white Northerner keeps sublimely ignorant and unconcerned. And that describes Chelmsford to a T as far as I'm concerned. It just lays it all out there. So, I mean, he was writing that in the 60s. Not much has changed.
Should we add that to our mission statement? No, I'm kidding.
That's a little
Ryan, can you make that can you give me a one sentence of what that idea is? What is the call to action?
That's not so much a call to action. The call to action is the community racism events to try to wake everybody up to the Northern Paradox, which is, yes, I'm against racism, and yet I do discriminatory stuff in my own personal life all the time without even knowing that I'm doing it.
And so the community racism events are different than the town-sponsored days for people of color?
Yeah, like the town-sponsored stuff would be holidays, celebrations, stuff that they would be putting up, Christmas decorations in the center, and they're putting lights on stuff and doing the duck race and the
so recognition
July 4th.
of
Exactly. If the town would say this is part of our official budget, we are going to celebrate these holidays because we want to be a diverse town.
Gotcha. Okay.
Any other ones?
Nope, that's it. Yep.
Okay,
Thank you for the time.
Excuse me. Hi, everybody. I'm late. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I have a question. Brian, what's the name of the group you said that you've been part of for a long time?
I actually haven't been a part of it, but it's called Standing Up for Racial Justice, SUR.
Oh, you've been following it, though. Standing Up for Racial Justice.
Yeah, I looked it up. I signed up. I wanted to be a part of it. Everything was in Boston late when I wouldn't be able to get there because of my parental duties. So
Gotcha.
I just thought it'd be nice to have. Yeah, I just thought it'd be nice to have something closer.
Carly?
Okay, so last week I sent out an email to all. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look it over. A lot of the stuff that we've covered already, I've kind of alluded to in my email, but if you hadn't read it, I felt that before we even got to the goals, we needed to identify our subject matter experts and our resources, the data and content that we can use. And those things have started to bubble up in this conversation because I think that we can learn a tremendous amount from other communities who have already begun this journey in understanding what it means to be a socially accepting community, racially diverse. But the next step would be to introduce, I see a goal as us going out and introducing ourselves to the community and to, our committee to the community and explaining what our charter is, how the organization is, the committee is structured, and reaching out specifically to those people that I think are influencers, like the school committee, these Facebook group moderators, Chelmsford Business Association, the public library, some of those names like the police, the fire department, doctor's offices. I think that they need to understand who we are and what our purpose is. So once we boil down what are our goals for this first term, those are the people that we need to reach out to and make sure that they're on board, understand what we're doing, and also make sure that they see them as a resource and give them some sense of how we might tap into them and find out if they're willing to one goal. I thought that we should develop a survey to solicit feedback on diversity and racial equity and inclusion. Again, because the conversation is focused a lot right now on, people of color, but I think our original goal was to include LGBTQ, people with disabilities, people with race, and so I think we really need to make sure that messaging comes across in whatever we do, whatever we communicate out. And lastly, determine where we want to communicate with the people who want to communicate, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, banners and signage. We want to kind of have an idea, one of the goals of how we're going to promote this town. So those were kind of the goals that I was. Hello? Hello?
It would help. It helps if you take yourself off mute. So I'll learn that.
I see that Margaret has her hand raised.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good now. Thank you.
All right. Lauren?
Yes, all good ideas, by the way, guys. This is awesome. I love it. I love getting banners and hanging them in the center and flags. I think it's great. Basically, what I really wanted to do is find out what diversity training police go through, and also what diversity training there are for the different committees in town. And can we bring in, speakers from, say, that group that Brian mentioned, or, and also into the school system. I really think we need training and education. So that's my goal, is to try to get some of that. And I have no idea what the police are trained for and how many classes they have in this. That's always been a big question for me. So everything else was covered. This was all great, wonderful. I have a question about the survey. Who would you survey? Because I think that's a great idea, but who would you survey?
I would recommend starting with the students, and
okay.
I think someone said it earlier, that, they have great feedback, and I think a survey is an easy way to get additional information from them without them feeling like they're exposing themselves in a meeting. Start through the schools, surveying the students, and maybe even the teachers as well, to get their feedback.
It's a great idea. The other thing is, I don't know, Phil, and if you guys all know this, because Charisse knows it, because the class of 2010 has done that, but there was, over the summer when we went into quarantine, there is a group of Chelmsford alumni for an anti-racist curriculum. They were very gung-ho in June and July, and then they seemed to have waned, but they did meet with the superintendent in the hopes to get the curriculum changed. So there was talk, but now it seems to have gone away. So I will follow up, but I'm sure there's like 500 members, like instantly 500 alumni who joined this group. So there are members there that are more than willing, I'm sure, to help, but it seems like it sort of fell by the wayside. So I think that's worth you people all joining and seeing what conversations and books they recommended as well. So I didn't know if you were aware of that or not, but I just wanted to make you aware.
No, yeah, I actually heard somebody reference that.
Is that a committee one?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Phil. I was just asking Lauren if that was a committee that you said had gotten together, or?
No, it's just a Facebook group. It was Sean Egan was a lawyer, and he was so incensed after George Floyd, and as everybody was. And some of the students had a vigil, and they had on the town common, the high school students started it. And then as a result of that, they formed it's called Chelmsford Alumni for an anti-racist curriculum. And Arun Benagapal, which people have talked about, he's in it. And, there's a lot, but Arun just moved to Tennessee temporarily. So I think that's a good source of people for us, if they're around, that's all. And a good source of ideas too.
Oh, great.
Thank you. Thank you, Phil.
Yep.
If I have to duck out, I apologize. I'll try to sneak back in, but I have an open house.
We understand. We absolutely understand. Joseph, your turn.
Hi, everyone. I I think a few of my ideas have already been covered. I think that they're great. For me personally, I think a big part of any town has a lot to do with the businesses there. So I personally would like to take a pretty big focus on the business. I was a former VP of the Chamber of Commerce in the town I grew up in. And when I was the VP, I was really interested in engaging businesses that weren't necessarily part of the chamber. People who maybe have heard of it weren't necessarily participating. I think we could do that with this as well. And as you guys have been bringing up some of these ideas about like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I was thinking more old school, even like an email newsletter that goes out maybe once a month. And what we could do is just have a couple of different sections that are very short and sweet, but at least provides links for those who are interested in following up. So some of the topics that I thought, or maybe we could start off with highlighting a business of the month. What is a minority-owned business or a woman-owned business? Something like that, where maybe they're new to the community. So now we can just give them a spotlight and say, hey, this place opened up, go check it out. And even if we wanted to provide some kind of free market, they're giving a 10% off if you mention that you found them through the diversity committee. So that's one idea. Promoting different events to promote inclusion within the community. So I know a few of you have mentioned things that kind of cover that, but I went to the Juneteenth event that was organized by the Chelmsford alumni. I thought it was great. I think we can take it a step further and have a purpose. So when I was on the Chamber of Commerce, I organized a food drive that was also combined with a bar crawl. So we had a lot of young professionals involved because it was fun. They got to go out drinking stuff that they'd normally do, but then it had like a purpose behind it. So we could do some kind of events like that as well. And as well into that, going back to the newsletter thing, we could encourage people to spread positive experiences that they've had about diversity inclusion in the community. So like an op-ed or some kind of from the community section, and promote other events that are in line with our objectives as a group too. So they don't necessarily have to be in Chelmsford, but it could be something like the group that Brian mentioned. We could say, hey, if you're interested in learning more about this topic, this meeting is going on in Boston, this is happening in Watertown, etc. So I thought that kind of just being a good hub for information that aligns with our objectives and also highlighting stuff that's going on next door would kind of encompass a lot of the ideas that I had. So we can build off that, but that's my idea for now.
Great, thanks. Susan? And,
Yeah, Phil, you didn't happen to read what I sent you in an email earlier.
No, I hadn't done that yet at all. And then I saw you and I said, well, Susan's here. She can speak for herself. So
I'll do it myself.
Not yet.
Sure, okay. Yeah, I was at the flu clinic working at it, so my brain is still switching gears. So I'm just going to read what I had sent to you so everyone will kind of know it. All right, I had sent Phil an email earlier today in case I couldn't make it. I wrote, I believe that students need to hear other perspectives in order to grow their own thinking and grow outside of their comfort zone. Those perspectives need to be diverse. One of the callers at the select board meeting in June said that our schools need to include BIPOC writers of history, BIPOC teachers' voices, and BIPOC students interacting with, and what she alluded to is white students interacting with BIPOC students. So I'd like to add that the schools need to directly address and talk about racism and the challenges faced by people of color and diverse ideologies and cultures in our society. Literature in their curriculum needs to include people of different races, ethnicities, religions, and sexual orientation. So I had some goals. One goal for members of our committee could be to meet with the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment to provide guidance in selecting literature and primary source curriculum materials that give voice to diverse peoples. We could also provide guidance in planning professional development to staff members on issues of diversity and racial equity, and I know Lauren just touched on that. And perhaps we can even suggest programs that bring diverse voices to students by meeting with some of the PTOs, because they schedule a lot of the enrichment activities that happen in the schools. So those were my ideas.
Thanks. Let's see, and Rachel.
All right. I started with two kind of planning goals. I used the MMA site they actually had some resources about kind of how towns can go about addressing like racial equity plans. So the first being, I think we should urge the town in general to make some sort of declaration on the topic. When I look at that, I think a lot of surrounding towns have worked to declare racism as a public health crisis and go from there. So I'd really like that to be the goal. And there's some examples I can follow up with an email, but Lexington and a bunch of other towns have done that. So we can kind of go from some blueprints that we already have. Following some sort of declaration about this, I think using something that Carly said, bringing in data from surveys and other things, really work to create an equity plan and a strategy that looks at how we incorporate these goals and what are some of like the measured outcomes that we'd like to see in the community. So those are the first two kind of planning goals. And then as I was thinking with Columbus Day and Indigenous People Day, kind of just thinking about that. I think we should have, urged to change the name of that at the town level. I would love to fold in, I heard a lot of communities are doing a thing where at the beginning of town events, they make a public acknowledgement to publicly honor the native tribes that have lived in that land before every event. And I think that would be a nice thing to fold into our community and show respect there and acknowledgement of our history.
Any other things you had?
That's it.
That's it? Okay.
Rachel, can you just go back to the last, not the last point, but the point before that about the public events? I was writing too fast and I missed that one. Not the town events for honoring Native Americans, but the one before that.
That was switching our town, celebrating Columbus Day to celebrating Indigenous People Day.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, great, thanks. Let's see, Latasha.
Okay, first I want to say I applaud everyone for their efforts on researching and thinking about these goals that they would like to see the committee pursue in the next year. Fantastic list. I think there's a lot of repetitive ideas, so we're all on the same wavelength. I have about 9 listed, but it's only because, you guys have already touched on them. So I'll just say a little bit about each of them, but just know that I'm echoing many of the things that you've stated already. I've gone on the town website and I've searched, I believe, every page on that website, and there is such a lack of diversity in the pictures that we see. We have to do more to show that our community is Black, white, but age, races, the different LGBT plus community. We need to show our display on a public setting. I love the idea about the town declaring that racism is a public health issue. So that goes in line with that. I believe it was Charisse who mentioned using the cultural center to have an event where different people come and display their culture. That can actually be a virtual event. We don't have to wait until we can meet and greet. We can do that virtually. So that was one of the things that I had on my list. Celebrating cultural awareness in our town center and in our schools. We've all touched on that tonight. Speaking with the police chief, the fire chief, all our municipal organizations, having a fireside chat. The wonderful thing that I've noticed about a fireside chat is it's a little bit more casual. people they feel a little bit more comfortable asking questions. So that's why I would like to name it that way. And we can still ask the very tough questions, but in a more casual setting. The other thing that I had is our Chelmsford magazine that's sent out on a monthly basis. There are all these different articles in there. We should add an article on a monthly basis about diversity, and we should spotlight different types of people other than athletes and our more commonly observed icons of different races and cultures. Let's dig a little bit deeper and share those stories on a regular basis. I want to speak with the Board of Selectmen. I want to speak to them about a budget for our team. I want to speak to them about a budget for giving incentives to minority-owned businesses to come to Chelmsford. I also want to speak to them about their bidding contracts. There's works or public works that are done on a frequent basis in town. We need to know who's bidding on those contracts and are they ever being awarded to a minority-owned business. The other thing that needs to be looked at is our housing. Do we have affordable housing in Chelmsford? That's how you bring in diversity. Not everybody's going to come here has $200,000+ salaries. I know I don't. Let's see, did I miss anything? And then the hotline. The hotline can be either a phone hotline or just a form on a website where the person would list what the discriminatory act was against them so that we can follow up on it and also use that for education purposes. I can tell you that there is a town called Natick, I think it's south of here. They have a freedom team, and it is a wonderful platform. I'm not sure who mentioned it earlier, where they have all the municipals come together along with their diversity committee, and they deal with all of those matters together. So that's a platform that we should review. And that's it. Oh, okay. I did have one more.
Oh, okay.
Okay. My last one is a fun one. I thought we could have like diversity models, people in town that have submit their picture. And then in the town center, we could have pictures of our diverse community in the little platform. I think people would like that.
Okay.
Great. Any other one?
Can I just comment? This is Trisha. I've been listening on the side. I've been doing some work, and because I used to be the webmaster, I still kind of inherited that. It came downstairs with me when I became the clerk. And I agree with you, Latasha, that I'm constantly trying to get images that are more diverse, that are more, just something besides that Revolutionary War monument on the Common. And actually, I get to pretty much choose the annual town report covers. But it's funny because sometimes they get political and people don't like them. But I'm not asking permission this year. So I was asking Tom Cristiano to get me pictures of the vigil that took place on the Common. So I'm going to be using some of those images as the cover for the 2020 annual town report. So I thought that would be good. I started working on a web page for our committee. Definitely need input. I just wanted to at least make sure people knew that we existed and that they could look at our agendas and get our mission statement up there. It's got a link to the Board of Selectmen virtual diversity listening session that took place on June 30th. It's got the word art thing that was done by Joe. So it's hard to find because it's under individual committee pages. I've never liked the way that navigated, but once we have some real content on there and some really great links that we want to share, then we can kind of feature it. We can spotlight it and get that out there. So that's the best way I can help you guys is if you see things that you want to really push through to the public, we can do news flashes for events. We can do, like I said, add it to the webpage. We can have our own calendar. We can just do that kind of stuff because we push everything municipal through the website. I mean, that's what we do. And we try to push it to all the Facebook pages and everything else because there is no local news media anymore, really. So our presence on our website and the Facebook pages is really the only way we can get word out. So I'm more than happy to help with that and actually very anxious to help with that. So I'm not sure also, Latasha, you mentioned that Chelmsford magazine and I wasn't sure what you were referring to.
It comes out once a month and I think is a community magazine.
The senior newsletter, the messenger, is that what you're, there's the messenger comes out monthly and then there's a community newsletter that's actually, I think it's if it's even quarterly. That's through the community ed department.
I'll get you the name.
Yeah, that would be great because we do try to get more information into the community newsletter. That's the only publication that gets mailed to every household.
I think that's it.
They get kind of skimpy with what they allow for community input. And I know they cut me all the time. So,
no.
But we can see, again, something new and any kind of an initiative, I think will be a great thing to try to add there. It can be a little bit pushy with trying to see if we can get things included. When you were talking about what kind of training different departments, the police and everybody else have done for diversity, I spoke briefly to Chief Spinney because when I was trying to figure out this whole Teams thing, I accidentally invited the department heads to our meeting, which didn't actually, and he went, "You just invited me to your diversity meeting." I said, "We will be, but not yet." So just ignore that one. But we chatted for a little bit and he shared with me a lot of the different things that they've done and that they're doing and they're planning on doing. And we had just a brief discussion about how our committee is going to be anxious to know all of those things and then how we can make sure that the public knows that what's being trained is actually being executed in the community. So he's more than anxious to have that fireside chat or however we want to meet. And I think that's a really good idea and maybe do the same thing with every department head. Once we have a real clear game plan on that. So it can certainly help set those up. And then as far as the hotline, maybe we can work with Chief Spinney on that because they do have that code red, reverse 911. I mean, I'm not sure how that would set up, but I'm sure he could help us with that. And I really wanted to learn more about the Freedom Team at NADIC, so I'll be looking into that. The diversity models, I think, was a kind of a really cute idea. The banners in the common and things like that, that's a fundraiser for the parade committee. So they actually sell those banners to make money for the parade. That's how they get there. And they're not cheap. They're $500 each. But we could do, just that coroplast kind of images on much less expensive kind of signs and maybe set them out. We'd have to get permission from the Historic District Commission. But, again, once we kind of get a calendar around what we want to do, then we can go to them and ask permission to put special signing up for different things. But the more people we can get to get images of, the better. And I really do maybe I can share some of the images with you guys via email and you can help me pick which one's going to be front cover, which one's going to be back cover. Because when you think about the annual town report is a mandated document that it's supposed to be something that's historically significant within that fiscal year. And there's only two things really that are most historically significant, and that is the Black Lives Matter movement in Chelmsford after the death of George Floyd, and then the COVID-19. Those are like the two. So who wants to cover with COVID-19? Not me. But all the cool pictures on the common, everybody's wearing their masks and have their signs. So it's really neat. So I'll send those out via email and you guys can help pick what you think. Do a little Google survey or something. So I again didn't bring my notes with me and all that, but I did do the listening session. All your ideas I think are great. I'm really excited to help you implement them. Tracking the different trainings that are put in place and which employees take those trainings. I mean, that's something I do anyways for different types of training. So once we find the right things that we're going to recommend that town employees do, then we can help to put those in place. And maybe we can get our HR director in to one of our meetings as well and see if she can help us really reach out to all the town employees.
Excuse me, Tricia. You mentioned that you're creating a diversity page for us under individual committees.
Yes.
Is it active now? I'm not seeing it on the list.
It is. If you go, the big search bar right on the banner of our website, just type in diversity, racial equity, and inclusion committee, and then it should hopefully be the first one that pops up if you're searching for it. But like I said, when you go, it's very hard to find in the way that our individual committee pages link. I don't like it at all. But you go to boards and committees, you've got the individual committee pages, and then it's a left-hand navigation that's alphabetic. And that is what I hate. And so you're going to scroll all the way down, and then one of the left-hand navigations on the individual pages is a link to the page. So, the whole navigation thing is pretty terrible. But again, right now it's not really, there's not a lot of content on there. But once we start getting some of the links up and videos and whatever we want to do, then we can put that more in the forefront. It'll spur me on to make the whole individual committee pages thing a little bit more accessible. Right. That's why we made the search bar so big. Said, if you know what you're looking for, type it in. But something like this, we really want it to be a little bit more of a focal point. So, but we have a spotlight area on the homepage that we can do. And you had mentioned businesses and business incentives, and Lisa Maroney is our business development director, and she right now has a business spotlight area on the webpage. So if we know of businesses that we want to ask for her to spotlight, she can do that in that area of the website as well.
Excellent. The word cloud looks really nice, by the way. I'm done, Charisse.
I just want to let you know, Tricia, too, I have pictures too, if you need them for the, on the comment, I'll send you what I have.
Please.
And by the way, I have to tell you, the speaker, Joe DeVoe, is from our church. I just have to,
great.
Yeah, he was one of the speakers. Yeah, and it was something else I wanted to ask you about, but I can't remember right now. But yeah, I can send some of those pictures over to you.
Anything you guys want me to add to the website, just send it on over, whether it's links, images, articles, whatever you think we want to push out. And when it's ready, we'll do a big introduction.
Oh, and one other thing, it would be nice if we could, on our page somewhere, since we have that, I think it would be nice to have, and it could alternate too, it's some nice diversity quotes. I always, they always draw people in. So, and that's something we can all participate in, and we can, change it up to kind of change the page a little bit and make it look different.
Oh, yeah.
Different quote. If it's not hard to manage that.
Yeah, I hate stagnant pages. So I can edit it quickly. If somebody gives me content, I can put it up there. I'm just not great with coming up with content, but if you want something up there, just go ahead and let me know, and I can slap it up real quick.
I think Susan, you had your hand up.
I did. I want to catch Tricia before she might go, because I know you might not be able to stay on too long.
Okay.
So I'm a town meeting rep, and last night one of the presenters, Aaron Cunningham, spoke for the Vision and Values Committee that the town has. I thought it was interesting. I jotted down some notes, like some of the visions for that committee are that the town needs to be inclusive and diverse. And under their values list, he had listed inclusiveness and diversity, respect and empathy. And he said that what they were going to do is urge any town committees that they will conduct goal setting and strategic planning in alignment with the vision and value statement. So I'm really not sure what the purpose of that committee is and what kind of overlap it would have with what we're doing, since a lot of the visions and values had to do with being inclusive and diverse.
Well, their job is pretty much done. Their job was to kind of come up with that one vision and value statement, and that's and to present it and then make their recommendations to the board. And so they've already started doing that. Like, we have to post that vision and value statement all around the building. So we have to try to incorporate some of those. I mean, our committee came out of that vision and values thing. I mean, but we'll do the best we can to kind of align. But again, I think we are an offshoot of what they started to do, and that's why we exist. So,
gotcha. And what we're doing is already deeper than any of the statements they've made.
Yeah, that was just a general statement, and then we just take it and run with it from there.
Gotcha. Okay, I didn't quite know where that committee had come from. I just saw this list of visions and values up on the screen.
Yeah,
okay.
they met for, I think, about 8 months or 6 months or something, and they just kind of talked about the things and there was a big public input session at the senior center, with that too. There were a few public input sessions. So.
All right, thanks for the background.
Sure thing.
Lauren, I know you have your hand up.
Yeah, can everyone hear me? I just wanted to let you know, I don't know if you knew this, but Telemedia, there's a guy in town named Jesse Hines that has made a documentary on race. And it will be probably being released soon. I just wanted you to know that he was a UMass Lowell professor. And I guess it's pretty good. I haven't seen it yet, but that will be coming down because Telemedia is very much willing to help in any way as well. So anything we want to do with Telemedia, be it a TV show, et cetera, to talk about maybe diversity, that's something we could add to the list. Okay? That's all.
Okay.
Ms. Cochran, you could produce a play at the high school, on this diversity stuff.
I could, as soon as we can get back into, we're doing a film right now. Of course, it's a murder film, but absolutely, I will use my resources. You know that. Yeah, but I thought a TV show would be really good on it, Town talk, let's talk.
Margaret, did we miss you?
Was that me? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Margaret.
Yeah, I said, Margaret, did
yes. Well, sort of, but I have not been to the last 2 meetings, so I didn't have a list of ideas.
Oh, okay.
But I'm very happy with what everyone has come up with.
Okay. All right, great. Now, I just want to make sure everybody has the opportunity. Let's see. I'm just kind of going down the list here to make sure. Did I miss anybody else? Okay. And as I'm looking at my list, when you go at the end, everything's pretty much been discussed. One of the things that I had as a goal is I know that there are other groups in town that have a focus on social justice, diversity, those types of areas, and I was thinking we could set up some sort of a network between our organization and those existing organizations so that we're aware of other, what I'll call like-minded groups, within the city who are, again, doing similar work, having similar focus. They can actually help us to publicize any events that we might be sponsoring. They can obviously, join us, in those, and we can do the same for them. We can, make sure that we can, share whatever resources they might have, or if they're, in the process of maybe doing an event or planning, some sort of intervention, or maybe they just have some ideas that they want to share, that we could do that as well. And that way we would know that there are other groups. For example, I know that the Unitarian Universalist Church has a social justice committee. I think, Congregation Shalom has one as well, and I'm not sure of the exact name of it. And I'm sure if we did some more looking, there might be other places churches, other, let's say, houses of worship, for example, that have similar things going on. So I thought that might be one thing that we could do, and that we could kind of reach out and take care of. Some of the other things have really been, discussed. And I'm just trying to see if I had anything new. One of the things that I was also, thinking we could somehow do was to influence some, increased diversity representation on any municipal positions. I don't know where, for example, when Chelmsford is hiring, for a particular job or a particular area, where the jobs are posted, how or what they're doing to get a more diverse pool of applicants for those positions. But whatever we can do to influence that, I'd like to, I think that'd be a goal that would be something. It would speak to some of our other, the big issue, which is to increase the diversity and the visibility of diversity in the town, and start to see it, reflected in the town employees. So, if there's anything that we can do specifically to influence that, then I would see that as a goal. And everything else, I think, has been pretty much focused on. One of the other things that I think, one way or another, we've talked about. Sponsoring some sort of series. Maybe it's a speaker series, it's a lecture series on items having to do with a number of different diversity topics. I know that the Chelmsford Public Library does those sorts of things all the time, and there'd be a great resource for us if we wanted to, partner with them. And certainly, as I was, listening to, talk about the different types of events that the town could start to support, and again, partnering with the library, I think is something we could do. I mean, like formally partnering with them on some of these items, I think would be that's a goal that I'd like to. See for, and I think everything else has really been pretty much touched upon, from my list. I know, obviously, the education and somehow getting involved with, the town to increase, our the diversity in curriculum, in staffing. All of those things are areas that we can certainly focus on. So. Didn't have any more than I think. They think the rest of them are not repetitive, but they can all kind of blend in a bit together. So any other things that come to mind with folks? As we've talked through this, have other ideas come up? Are there some things that you were kind of thinking about? So, well, gee, I didn't know if I wanted to include that, but maybe I should. I really want to get everybody to be as involved in what other ideas are out there, making sure that we can collect them all, categorize them. I mean, at least collect them that for now, and then for our next, step would be to somehow start to, look at them a little more closely, figure out, how we're going to categorize them and so forth. But any additional ones?
I just wanted to, we've mentioned events a few times, and it's kind of a weak area in Chelmsford because there's always been separate little groups that do their own events. Mm-hmm. And there's a committee that's actually in the charter. It's the Public Celebrations Committee. There are no members left at all, and it's in the charter. There's nobody on the Public Celebrations Committee. So maybe we need to have 5 of our members become the Public Celebrations Committee. And then I've always envisioned this committee not just to be, it used to be the Public Celebrations Committee just did the country fair, and then the parade committee did the parade. Yeah. That never really made a lot of sense to me. The Public Celebrations Committee should be help with the operations or the execution of all the events in town, and just kind of support and bring it all together and make sure that the calendars don't clash and just kind of organize them all. So it's just something that's been vacant. If you watch the Board of Selectmen meetings, they read the committee vacancies every single meeting. 5 members of the Public Celebrations Committee is always on there. And I used to be a member when Walter Headland was alive. I mean, I was on there with him with some other members of the Lions Club. And it was a struggle to try to get the Board of Selectmen to change the charge of the committee so that it's not just country fair, But I think if there was a group of people that really wanted to take an active role in events throughout the calendar year, then maybe we could make it what we want it to be. Just a thought.
Do they
So
have a budget?
3 questions for you, Tricia. I'm sorry.
That's
That was
okay.
one of them, Sharice. Do they have a
yes,
budget?
there is a very small budget, but with success, budgets can be increased. And also it would have to be additional fundraising, but there's a very small budget. So it's like seed money to start.
And the other question is, do you know why it's been vacant for so long? Is it because the charter of the committee was vague or just didn't seem to resonate?
Once Walter Headland passed away, there was only 2 of us. Well, actually, there were 3 of us on the committee. Then another gentleman just, again, got ill. Then there were 2. And I couldn't do it anymore because I stopped on all my committees when I became clerk. I was on like 6 different committees, and I just said, all right, I've done it for a long time. I needed to focus on learning my new job. So I was the last one on the committee to say, yeah, this isn't, this isn't happening. But the selectmen change every 3 years. So it was really hard to get the chairman of the Board of Selectmen to kind of say, all right, what's wrong with this committee? It's in our charter. Let's make it something substantial. And maybe because I didn't have other people to help make it something, it just wasn't, I kind of lost my steam once Walter passed away. I was on it just because Walter was there.
And then I just had one other question going back to when you were talking about the town reps and the value proposition that they came up with for diversity and inclusion. Do we need to, and this is a question for everybody, did we capture in our mission statement parts of what they submitted?
I think so. I think the important
part. Are they in sync with one another?
Well, we can, I think so. Again, the part that affects us, I think we did.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question. Is it possible too that we can bring, I know that we were all kind of appointed into this position, and for this other committee, is there opportunities to bring someone else in, possibly if we don't have enough 5 that would be interested in the public celebration community? Is that a voted in? How is that position appointed?
It's appointed by the Board of Selectmen, yeah. And honestly, bringing new people into the town and being involved in any kind of a committee or organization is great. So if something like this could draw more people in, I just think it's good for the town.
Because I know the person, Sanukta, her mother is interested in, participating, because I don't know if she knew about this application process. And I think she might be someone that's, interested in something like the public celebration community committee. So I was just wondering how that all works,
Well,
because even if we're interested, do we have to go through the whole, being chosen by the Board of Selectmen?
Well, yeah, we do. We do have to be appointed, but it's not like a big deal. It's just like if we collectively go, okay, here's what we want to do. And yes, we're willing to support all the existing events that go on in town, but maybe we can enhance them. Or was it Latasha who said, no, I can't remember which one Rachel, it was you, with the Indigenous people, honoring them before the start of each event in town. Things like that. You can always bring something, depending upon the time of year or whatever, just bring something new and more inclusive into any of the events that we have. They don't have to still be the same old. But again, if they are the same old, well, that's fine, but we have to help operationally, and I think the more involved we are in all the events in town, the more we can get a larger percentage of the community involved in, and just, again, getting back to community as a whole. It's just been so hard over these last 6 months. My worry is that because we've connected, that how are we going to get these events going again, because everybody's been so distant. So it might be a good time to just revive everything and refresh everything and do it in a new and different way. Just a thought.
Makes sense. Any, Sharice, do you still have your hand up? Oh, you're on mute.
I just took it down. I didn't mean to have it up.
Okay. I didn't. And Carly, you have your hand up?
I should take it down. There you go.
I just want to make sure I wasn't overlooking people. I'm trying to pay attention here. So okay, that's great. Any other thoughts folks have? Any other ideas for goals? Anything at all that we should look to add to the list?
I don't know how feasible it is and how much work it would be, but it might be nice to consider some kind of student scholarship to center around somebody who exemplifies the ideals of the committee. That might just be something nice, and again, it kind of gets right back.
Love it. Great idea.
Okay, I have a lot of things to add to the website. Thanks, Latasha. Gotta organize these. That's great.
I was doing double duty.
Yeah. All right. I just got to organize it a little bit and figure out how you want to, maybe layout wise, we can figure it out.
Okay.
I can't look at it tonight though anymore. I'm tired.
Not a problem.
Not at all.
All right, I'm going to add that one.
Anything else anyone wants to add at this point? If not, then I think we should probably figure out the best way to get all of this information out to the team. Susan, should folks, I know Carly's been taking some notes. I've been trying to take notes as well on some of the ideas that have been shared. Can we send those to you and you can attach it to the agenda? Is that the best way? I'm not clear on how the best way it is. So actually, maybe I should just open it up and take people's advice on the best way to get the information to folks on the team.
So what kind of information are we sharing?
This is the goals that the team came up with during this meeting. We've been jotting those down.
Okay, so that's going to be in the minutes. That'll just be part of the minutes.
All be okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought that we had to do that separate. Okay. Nope. Got it.
So I've been taking notes.
Okay, I jotted down just.
Sorry, was Joe taking minutes earlier because I missed the first 25 minutes or so?
Mm-hmm.
But Joe,
So
you didn't bring down
I can send it to you
right?
afterwards, Susan.
I'm sorry, what,
I
Joe?
took care of everything.
So did you?
Yep, I took care of everything.
Okay.
All right, because I started in, but I had missed quite a bit at the beginning.
So Joe, you've captured all of the that conversation that we just had.
I hope so. I'll shoot them over to Susan and anyone else who is keeping track. If they want to send them over and we can figure out a way to consolidate, it's probably the best way to do it, I'd say.
I think Carly was taking notes too, weren't you, Carly?
Yeah.
And I've been recording
I took down all the goals. Yeah.
So if you anyone wants to email me what you've got, and I will incorporate it into the minutes and then share them as soon as I can get to it.
The other thought, Theo, for our next meeting, will we group all these things once they're kind of laid out, like group them into categories or something so that we can start planning on how we proceed with getting some of these things done?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to suggest. That now that we've got this kind of laundry list of things that we could potentially do, then you're right. The next thing to do is to look at this list and start to categorize. Some of the ideas are very close. We can collapse, perhaps collapse several together, but we could start to do that process at the next meeting. And really, and I would think that'd be the focus. Barring any a bunch of other agenda items, I think that would be the focus of next week's meeting, is to go through this information, start to prioritize. Start to categorize first, and then the next step would be prioritize it. What do we want to tackle now? What do we want to? What do we want later on? There may be some things. For lack of a better term, low-hanging fruit. There may be some things that we can quickly get to and fix and address, and we wouldn't want to put those, on the top of the list. But we'll have an opportunity to do all of that, and then, the last step being, once we've identified which things we want to work on, then going in and in kind of building, for lack of a better term, a plan on how we're going to get there. So we identify, influencing, curriculum changes at the high school. What specific, what actions are we going to take to make sure that happens? So, that would be the next step. And perhaps, perhaps we don't get to that piece next meeting. Perhaps it's the following meeting. But, I think we've got, goodness is we've got a bunch of ideas that, I'm sure everybody kind of knew folks were sitting on it. And now it's time for us to kind of pull these together, because this is going to be the work of the group. This is ultimately what we end up doing, is how we'll define ourselves, at least for our term anyway. So I think we want to kind of focus in on that. And that one is what, I think the next meeting would be. So, that makes sense to folks?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, don't forget, I need an agenda by Thursday.
Right.
Are we meeting next Tuesday?
That's what I was going to ask.
Okay.
Are we meeting next Tuesday? Thank you,
And
Tricia.
not on November 3rd. Nope.
No. I think we can skip. I think we can skip the 3rd.
Skip that night.
Yeah, we can do that. All right. Let's see. So next Tuesday, October 27th. Do we need an additional half an hour? Do you think we can do what we need to do in the hour's time?
I think we can do what we should do in an hour.
Okay, fine. And it will be Tuesday the 27th from 7 to 8. Great.
You guys have done a great job. Thank you for your ideas and your participation.
Absolutely.
Now, has everyone completed their ethics training?
No, I have not completed my ethics training.
Okay.
I did it through the school system. It's the same thing, yeah?
It's the same thing for the school. Don't you have to do the same thing as a municipal employee? I've already done it. So
I didn't know.
the teachers have already done it. Yeah.
It's just every year.
Every 2 years. Yeah.
Every 2 years, same one.
Yeah.
I have a question that I need to understand. So I have a +2 in my block, which means it might be somebody chatted or something to me. And I was just wondering, how do I retrieve whatever it is? It's like a +2. Do you have that in your corner?
Did I let you in like 3 times or something?
I don't know. I only came in. I just wonder, because sometimes, when there's a chat going on, I don't even know how to do the chat. I just wanted to make sure if anybody sent me anything to know that I don't know what I'm doing on this particular platform. So call me offline or shoot me something if you sent me something. I just see a +2. I didn't know what that meant.
I don't see it.
It's likely that it's just 2 people in the meeting and you can't see their picture on your screen. So if there's 11 people, maybe you only see 9, the other 2 are hidden.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay. Thank you, Joe.
All right. Can I make a motion to adjourn, please?
Yes. Motion to adjourn? Do you have a second for that motion?
Aye.
Aye.
I second. All right, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night,
Next week.
everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.